Many landscapers cannot stand particular plants because they're not native. Well, I'm about to change your mind on a group of plants, the Cordylines, which are native plants which look like tropical plants, but are incredibly adaptable for so many reasons, environmentally and visually, and aesthetically. They fit into so many landscape designs that I will convince you that the Cordylines are your answer, the Australian native Cordylines. My name is Paul Plant, and this is the Subtropical Gardening Podcast. Every single week, we will do a video regarding plants and gardening in the warm climate, focusing, of course, on the subtropics, which is where I live in southeast Queensland in a subtropical climate. I hope that you do like it. If you do, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Your support is greatly appreciated, and the more followers we get, the more information we can share with you, and the more people we can get on as special features. I've got one lined up already, so that we can expose more plants, showcase more plants for you, for the home gardeners. Now, I do know that everyone, myself included, can have difficulty finding the right plant for the right situation. But I do believe the Cordylines, the Australian natives, could just fit that criteria. So to start off with, there are 8 species of native Cordylines. Some are near impossible to track down to grow. Some are regarded as rare, but the rest are really popular in the industry if you look for them and track them down. Some of the basic requirements for Cordylines are that they love part shade, so they'll fit into small gardens in between the trees and your existing plants. Down the side of the house, next to the fence where properties are getting smaller, native Cordylines fit that criteria. They're green, they have flowers, they attract butterflies. What more could you possibly ask? And they don't take up too much space and don't require a lot of maintenance. Propagating is also very easy, either by seed or by cuttings. And anyone who has grown any Cordyline knows you can cut the top off, put it in water or a potting mix, and it will create its own root system. So they are very good, very easy to grow. And hence, I encourage everyone to give the native Cordylines a really good go. So whether you're growing a native garden, a tropical garden, a subtropical garden, a Balinese garden, or a cottage garden, I'm sure we can find one Cordyline native that you will be happy to use. And if you have a boutique little garden, I know just the right plant, and it's going to be the very last one I feature because it's one of my favorites. So we'll talk about that very soon. But let's get started. The first one on my row is probably one of the most popular ones you will see if you're bushwalking in southeast Queensland or northern New South Wales. It is Cordyline rubra. Now, this is a plant that will get about 3 to 4 meters high. It gets its name Cordyline rubra, which means red, because of the red fruit, not because of the foliage. And this is where some confusion starts. Some people think this one with red foliage is Cordyline rubra, but it's not. This is Cordyline fruticosa rubra. Do not confuse the red foliage one with the red leaf Australian native Cordyline rubra, which gets red fruit. A little bit closer up, let me just grab the live specimen I have. And by the way, as a seedling, this is what it looks like as a seedling. Cordyline rubra with the foliage, good roots, and that's round about, I think it's 8 months old as a seedling in a tube stock and perfect for planting out. So this is Cordyline rubra. Straight stem, and the foliage, if I can bring it in screen, has a very upright habit. It branches, although I do have to say I have to kind of encourage it to branch with a bit of pruning. And the leaves grow straight up to start with, then hang out. It is a very attractive plant. If you look at the image on the side there, but it does have all of the foliage towards the very, let me get the right arrow hand upright, up there on that image. And it is my source of seed where I collect the seed and grow it. And this is a plant on my property, a wild plant. I don't think the previous owner has planted it, so it is growing very well on my property. So that's Cordyline rubra. Now, normally we find natives green a bit boring, but there is a variegated one on the market. Collectors do have it, and it's worthwhile looking for. So that's Cordyline rubra variegated I'm showing on the slide right now. It's hard to get, but definitely worth looking for. The next native cordyline on my collection for you is Cordyline manners-suttoniae. I think this is the most popular one landscapers have been using because it's tall. And I mean, this thing can easily get perhaps maybe 6 meters tall. Let me just check. 4 meters tall. It is native to all the way from Cooktown to Rockhampton, so it is more of a North Queensland species. It can tolerate extreme dry winter and, of course, the wet summers. It goes anywhere from swamps to the side of the hills. Incredibly adaptable. I've seen this used in full sun. I've seen this used in landscapes in shade, as you can see on the image. Let me just bring up that image again. The leaves are broader, much broader than the Cordyline rubra, which I showed previously. It is a taller growing one, and hence the leaves make much more of a statement. If it gets too tall, like any Cordyline, you cut the top off and it flushes up again with fresh new leaves. So you can reduce the height if it gets too tall. Now this one, Cordyline manners-suttoniae, can be covered, festooned in flowers, wonderful for the bees, followed by red berries. It is a prolific seed bearer, which is why it is probably the most common native cordyline you will see on the market, because it's the easiest to propagate, easiest to grow from seed and cuttings, but it is prolific with seed. The one that people confuse it with the most, and hopefully I have this lined up right. Nope. Let's just skip over a few. I don't have an image of that particular one I'm wanting, but let me just go back to here. The one that people confuse manners-suttoniae with is Cordyline petiolaris. And just to show you the difference, this is Cordyline petiolaris, and the size and the same size plant planted at the same time. This is Cordyline manners-suttoniae. So manners-suttoniae has slightly shorter leaf stalks, whereas petiolaris has really long, graceful petioles. I'll just take it back a little bit so you can see how graceful it looks. Very long petioles, and then the lamina is at the top. And this one is native to our local area in southeast Queensland, and therefore is a much more desirable plant to track down if you can get your hands on it. So the petiolaris will grow to around about 4 to 5 meters. Again, prune it down to the height that you want it. The seeds are also red. And it is native, as I mentioned, to southeast Queensland down to northern New South Wales, typical in the wet, sclerophyll rainforest environment and in some of the deeper forests, deeper shaded forests. But the iconic feature with this is the very long petioles, the stalk of the leaf, which is why it's called Cordyline petiolaris. Now, the next one on my suite is Cordyline stricta, and this is the one in my yard. In the morning sun, it's looking very pretty indeed, and it has a more upright shape. It is, again, very tolerant of climate conditions. Stricta is from basically southeast Queensland into northern New South Wales, all the way down to Sydney. So this one tolerates a lot of chill. And I've noticed when I've worked on various landscape architect designs, the architects that come from down south tend to use stricta more than any of the other cultivars or species, I should say. So stricta will get to about, again, 5 meters. It tends to be a bit of a floppy plant. In other words, some of the stems can lean a little bit more horizontal and they actually root as they clump up. Stricta has much more strappy-like leaves. Very narrow, very distinctive, as you can see on that image to my right. And just to show you, let me just grab one. Got a lot of different ones here sitting in a pile. And this is, I might have to move a few things out of the way so I can get a better image of this one. And let me just, I think my cursor has just gone to sleep. There you go. This is stricta. Very long lineal leaves. It's a nice cluster. It's a very nice head to it. Just move it backwards a bit. There you go. And lean it in. What I've noticed with stricta is that it, there's a leaf in the way here. There you go. It's very vibrant, very fast growing. It has a very erect habit to it. And I think it really has an attribute where mass planted, you can put it in full sun, you can put it in part shade. It will give a much more vertical effect, a clumping effect to your landscape design when you use Cordyline stricta. But big head foliage, but very thin lineal leaves. I'm making a slight mess here. Now, something else about stricta. What do I have to mention about stricta? That's pretty much it. The next one on my slide we have is the one very close that looks a lot like it, is Cordyline congesta. And a lot of landscape architects and home gardeners get the two confused because, as you can see with the habit, the foliage towards the top, the leaves stick up and then hang out, and fairly lineal leaves. And you compare that to the previous one, stricta, also upright leaves and fairly lineal. The stricta is much more thinner, and the congesta has more of a chunky leaf to it. Now, the key thing for congesta is that the petioles are, I've got to, hold on, move it to a different screen. The petioles are a good length, but the lamina gets wider here than the stricta. The fascinating thing is congesta has very fine serrated leaves on the edges where it goes from the petiole to the lamina, and you should be able to just feel it. And on this one, it's just at that point right there, because I can feel the abrasion when I run my fingers across there. Now, stricta does not have that. Congesta does. And the way I tell people to remember it is when you eat something, you're digesting it, and it's gone through your teeth to digest it. So congesta sounds a little bit like digestion. So think about teeth for congesta for your cordylines. And that really is a great way, and I've had people remember it years afterwards because of that relationship with name. It looks like we had a little bit of a glitch with the recording, so I've done a last-minute adjustment. So with the Cordyline congesta, it is regarded as a rare plant in the wild. The good news is that a number of collectors and growers like myself are growing and collecting the seed and making them more available in the marketplace. So you should be able to find this rare Cordyline native available at certain garden centres or specialist native nurseries. So keep a lookout for them. I'm sure you will find them. Now, the last on the list of native cordylines is the one I think everyone should be growing because it is an absolute little cutie and a beauty. It is Cordyline Murchisoniae. I always get the pronunciation of that name wrong. So this plant only grows about 1 meter. It is native to let me just check to make sure I do it right. It is native to the Babinda to Bundaberg area, so it loves the tropical rainforests and the nearby open dry forests. It does exceptionally well on my property, so it is worthwhile considering growing this plant. The soft green undulating leaf margins make it a pretty little plant, a boutique little cordyline. Only growing to 1 meter, ideal for pots. It makes it ideal for patios, courtyards, balconies, protected spots, of course, and of course fits in really well in any landscape situation. This is the pretty one that I think everyone should be growing and worthwhile converting any anti-cordyline grower to a pro-cordyline grower. So I'll just show you this a little bit closer. Let me just stop it wobbling. You can see the undulating edges, which is one of the main features, the attractive features of this small growing cordyline, only to about 1 meter. This is the one I think everyone should be growing as a collectible plant. That's the end of this particular video. I hope you enjoyed it. I forgot to mention orange seeds on that last cordyline. Please subscribe, give it a thumbs up. Your support is greatly appreciated because with the more followers we have, the more comments we get, we can increase the Subtropical Gardening podcast to more viewers, to more listeners, whether you are in just Southeast Queensland or in the tropics throughout Asia. We hope you enjoyed this particular video, this podcast. This part I've attached it to the end of the other one. All my backdrop has disappeared because of the lag in the video of the original. So it's a last minute addition. Normally I do a one run through, nice and clean. This one, no idea what happened. My NVIDIA and my OBS must not be working correctly, but I'll sort that out, I hope, very, very soon. So thank you once again for everyone who listened. If you have any comments, please add them to the comment section and we will address those next week. And I'll obviously be answering them during the week, but I will talk about them in the podcast next week. So thank you and happy gardening to everyone.